Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back to another edition of Pick and Go, and you'll probably notice that I'm here in the studio by myself today because Piri Wipu has called in sick, unfortunately. I saw him up in Auckland on the weekend. He was driving back, so he must have caught some sort of Auckland bug, which can happen with the purity of us Wellingtonians when we travel up there to the big smoke. But one person we do have is our good friend Ben Searle from Searley Talk Sport. Searley, welcome back again, mate.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to be back in New Zealand. If Pity can't handle the Auckland air, then he would struggle in Vegas massively. But yeah, it's good to be back to normality, and enjoyed watching another great round of Super Rugby. So looking forward to talking about it.
Well, we're down one half-back, so we go and grab another half-back. And from up that part of the world where Searley's talking from, we've got Steve Devine. Steve, thanks for joining in once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, team. Good to be here. And how good is Super Rugby?
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was sensational. In fact, every single round so far this season has been just super. I'm struggling to remember a Super Rugby competition in the sort of recent times where we've had this sort of, uncertainty about results. Any team on their day, and I think Clayton McMillan said this last week, any team on their day can beat any other team. So have you been enjoying it, Searley?
Yeah, when you have first taking on last, and I say last in quotation marks because we know the Blues are a decent side still, but when you have first taking on last and there's a point separating it, just highlights how close this competition is. And the quality of rugby has been really enjoyable to watch. And I think one of the standouts for me, and we saw it again on the weekend, teams getting rewarded for like just kicking the ball away aimlessly. Sorry, getting punished for kicking the ball away aimlessly. Sides willing to chance their arm, unleash some attacking talent that these teams have. And it's young guys coming through, getting given the opportunity, putting their hands up and just showing how talented they are. There was a handful of them again on the weekend. So it's been entertaining to watch. I think it's reflective in the viewership numbers, and it's just great to see people talking about rugby in a positive light again.
Steve, you've obviously been enjoying the style of and the competitiveness of the competition so far.
Oh, yeah, listen, I love it. The thing I enjoy most about it is that the team who often just turns up wanting it more is the team that ends up winning. Like last weekend, Highlanders, Hurricanes. I think Highlanders are the better team there, and I think they played well. Just in those really pressure moments, I just think the Hurricanes were so desperate to get a win that they eventually got there. And it makes for great rugby, makes for great entertainment when it's the toss of a coin in a lot of situations, and it comes down to a couple of key moments and a couple of big decisions where often the team that wants it more is getting the win.
Okay, it was Marvel superhero round last weekend, and I think what we found out was Captain America is better than the Hulk, and the Black Panther is better than Spider-Man.
Just.
But a question for you boys. What superhero would you boys be? Or what one would you like to, if you were still playing or you were playing in Super Rugby, what superhero would you like to be?
Cheapers. That's a tough one. I think Spider-Man. I was always a big Spider-Man fan. I was a big Iron Man fan as well. Disappointed he didn't get a run throughout this competition. I will say it was weird seeing the Canes in those colours, so maybe a slightly better alignment to do with the jerseys. I'm still not 100% sold on that kit either, but it was outside of the box thinking for kids around and all that stuff, and I rate the creativity. Yeah, I'd probably go Spider-Man. I just like the cut of his jib, just getting out there, saving the planet. He's elusive. He's fast. He's got that ability to just soar through the air. Pretty cool superpower. So, yeah, I'll go with Spider-Man.
Steve, if you look at this, your superhero choice.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it out there that I would love to be a combination of two. Firstly, being Superman, because you can do anything and everything you want. And the second is Deadpool. I just think Superman needs a little bit more, just a little bit more of a tweak around and how he perceives himself. So I just think a cross between Superman and Deadpool is who I'd like to be.
Nice, yeah. I like both those choices there. I would have been, I can't remember what his name was, the greatest
American hero.
Yeah, because he was a bit goofy. He lost the instructions to the superpowers as well, so he had to try and figure it out as he went along. So I thought,
that's you.
Yeah, that definitely suits me.
Yeah.
Right, let's get down to the game proper, or the games proper that happened last week. And I guess why don't we look at that Highlanders Hurricanes match? And I think you're right. It was a very, very tight score, but I think the Hurricane made some crucial turnovers and some crucial decisions at the right time that got them over the top of the Highlanders, Steve.
Yeah, I think Karifi du Plessis pretty much won them the game, right? He got a couple of key turnovers toward the end of the match when the Highlanders were in the 22 on attack. So, and then those big moments. But once again, he throws his hands up for a higher honours selection later in the year, doesn't he?
Well, did you see that that comment from Corey Jane? 100 contacts recorded on his mouth guard. That's crazy from du Plessis. That just shows he was into everything, and he's so physical, right?
And I tell you what, while we're talking about number sevens who can get on top of the ball, you'd almost have to move. I know he's moved from wing into second five, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see him a number seven jumper on top of the ball at every ruck with you, Tawa Nawai. He just gets better and better. Teams are obviously now watching him and going, okay, we need to make sure if he's in and around the ruck or the tackle, we need to get rid of him. But he's just so powerful and dynamic on the ball that, he makes number sevens look ordinary. He's just so good at it.
We're talking about higher honours. So are these two players that you think are putting their hand up and saying, look, Razor, you've got to put me in the conversation, Searley?
Yeah, I made a bold call last year during NPC that I would have liked to have seen Tawa Nawai get a crack. And now, for me, the only, I guess, knock against them in terms of All Black level is they love picking guys with utility value. And at the time, he was a winger that had played a couple games as centre for Tasman and looked good there, but there were still question marks around whether he was a genuine midfield option. And now I think those question marks are 100% gone. So he now ticks the box of being able to cover your outside backs and your midfield, which I think All Black selectors prioritise when looking at those last few backs to chuck into their squad, because we've seen over the last couple years they love having the ability to play guys out of position but still look in positions. I think Tawa Nawai has to be extremely close, if not in there already. It's just hard because there's so many options, and guys like Severeisen that are playing exceptional football too. So it's who drops out for me.
So we've talked about Tawa Nawai, we've talked about Karifi. Is there anyone else out of that Highlanders Hurricanes game, Steve, where you can say, hold on, this he's got to be there or thereabouts?
I think the big boys put their hands up. Obviously, there's a few injuries with both teams. I just think, Roygaard's playing good footy with the Canes, but he's not quite as dynamic. And I possibly think that that's from the Hurricanes not quite getting that good, quick ruck ball consistently. Godfrey, I think Godfrey's got to be in the mix for the All Blacks. I just think he's a young number 10. Why wouldn't they carry him for a year or so just to, get him in the training environment, let him know what it's all about. I just think he's a player for the future. He's going to be there I think the way he's playing now, he'll be there at the next World Cup, regardless.
I think Caleb Tangito's got to be close as well, but he's probably another one that's a 2 or 3 year time type of thing because of the outside backs we have in the comp at the moment. But his move from Auckland down to the Landers for game time is a great example of why other guys should look to do similar too, because he's become a household name now over the course of this competition.
If we move on to the next game, and the Drua put up a bit of a fight, but in the end, the Brumbies were just a wee bit too good. And look, they find themselves inside that top 6, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see at the end of the season where sort of teams end up. It looks like the Chiefs and the Crusaders are sort of gravitating towards the top, but there's going to be a bit of a dogfight amongst the other teams to fill the other 4 spots. But if you look at that Brumbies Drua game, obviously the Drua very, very good in Fiji. In fact, have never been beaten in Lautoka. But you still see enough there, Searley, to still be confident that they could be one of those teams that do make the top 6?
Oh, I'm starting to think now with just the one win from the 5 games. This game up against the Force this week is really important for them. They need to pick this one up on the road. I think we saw the Force last week rest a couple players potentially as well to target their home game this week. So I think if they can pick up a win this week on the road and then bank some more wins at home, they're going to be in the mix. But when you look at teams outside at the moment that I fancy higher than them, probably Blues and Canes. So it's going to be a real logjam, and that's what we expected, right? Do the Tars stay in it? There's a lot of question marks at the moment. The Highlanders are another of those teams too. So I genuinely think this is going to come down to the last round, and there's going to be a few games teams look back on where they lost by a point or two and just think that cost them the season.
Steve, let's move on to the Crusaders game. And boy, oh boy, did they have a day out against the Force. Not a 100%, I guess, top of the line Force team, but still, the likes of Macca Springer putting his hand up in a very, very crowded outside back contingent for the All Blacks. There's just so many players who are putting their hands up and saying, well, don't get me, coach.
Yeah, listen, I think for the first time we've seen the Crusaders score their tries in the outside backs. Springer got 5, Sevi Reece got 3, and Will Jordan got a couple, or definitely got 1. So for the first time in a long time, we've seen, the Crusaders not be so tight and so clinical, and really let the outside backs loose, which means they're confident, and that also means that scares me a little bit. They're a good team. I'm actually gobsmacked that they're paying what they're paying this weekend against the Blues at Eden Park. The Blues, I think, 14 injuries in their initial squad, so they're struggling. They're struggling a little bit with their depth, the Blues, because of the injuries, and I'm just gobsmacked to see that the Blues are favourites to beat the Crusaders this weekend after last weekend's performance at Eden Park.
Searley, Steve's not the only person who said that to me, and I've only been in the office for an hour and a half or so, and there's a couple of people who've come up and go, how are the Crusaders playing that much against the Blues this weekend? We'll get to that a wee bit later on the podcast, but yeah, they it certainly looks like they've put last season behind them, the Crusaders, and they are starting to fire on all cylinders. They had their injury issues last season. That they are getting back to fully healthy. Braden Enor is starting to look sharp again. The forward pack has certainly been laying that foundation so those outside backs can do what they do. And boy, were they doing it very, very well.
Yeah, I think the health, like you touched on there, is a big one. And we're seeing the benefit of them having a guy like Will Jordan for the whole of Super Rugby. Like his playmaking on the weekend, his ability to throw out those cutout passes is just beautiful to watch too. He's such a classy player, and he changes their side completely, just having him at the back. So, yeah, I, like Steve, am shocked that the Crusaders are paying that much, and I will say they're in my multis either 1 to 12 or on an alternative line because, yeah, a team coming second at the moment, taking on the team coming 9th, and for those odds to be that heavily against the team in second, it's a little bit bizarre. I reckon there's a couple upsets this week. I like the Reds too, but we'll touch on that shortly.
I'm My only problem with the Crusaders is they allowed probably a second string Western Force team to put 33 points on them. And I don't want to poke the bear, and I would also love them to have them in all my multis on the weekend, but I can't do that to myself. That's my one glimmer of hope is the 33 points against an under-strength Force team is not what we expect from the Crusaders defensively.
It's a very, very good point. They did leak a few points against a team who, were second stringers at best.
And it was up the middle where they leaked the points. And let's be honest, that's what the Blues are going to do.
Oh, it'll be very. Oh, here we go. It's almost like Steve's trying to convince a few punters to don't forget about the Blues this weekend.
I'm trying to, let's everyone will get on the Crusaders. Surely the Blues will go up in price, and that's when I'll pounce.
Well, last weekend the Blues were in a huge battle against the top of the table team, and they almost did the job. But boy, oh boy, D-Mac, Stevenson at the back, another one who's saying, "Hey, how can I not be in the conversation as well?" But what a game, match of the round, and they didn't disappoint, Searley.
No, it was, like I said before, first versus last heading into the round, and we got dished up a thriller. And I think that second half from the Blues was the best they've played in a while. I think the introduction of Stephen Perifeta off the bench helped their attack massively. So I'll be interested to see how they line up at 10 and 15 this week. No knock on Corey Evans. I thought he was really good. Another young lad that's got massive potential too. But I think having Perifeta in this squad, especially when you're down a Bodie Barrett, his class was really evident. But yeah, for the Chiefs, and being able to bring off like a Taukiaho and a Ratama off the bench, it's just pretty relentless from them, isn't it? And some of the tries both teams scored were exceptional. That one the Chiefs scored off that turnover in about the 60th minute, that's up there for try of the year contender in terms of a team effort too. So another great matchup between these two franchises. And I think the Blues, although they lost, and you'd never admit it as the coach, I think there's probably some signs there that they would have liked to have seen from a couple of weeks ago, just to show that they're starting to play a bit more of their usual type of footy we expected. But yeah, that injury toll on them is rough. Good to see guys like Christie and Tele, though, that the young lads really put their hands up as well. That Auckland development system, both of them have been in that for a while, and it's proving up some gems yet again too. So some positives there for sure.
Steve, you must be encouraged by how the Blues went, even though they weren't able to get the win in the end.
What blew my mind was we had Black Panther up against Spider-Man, and it goes down to a ding-dong battle, and the last kick of the match is a penalty goal from the corner, and it hits the upright. I mean, you can't even write a movie script like that. It was as close as it gets, and Black Panther just came out on top, which for a few people was a little bit of a surprise. No, it was a cracking match. I think Stephen Perifeta back was massive. The Blues having lost Bodie the week before, who were looking so good on attack with him, and then they had that really poor second half where he went off at halftime and got injured. I think Perifeta back is massive. I know Zahn Sullivan's not far away either from being back. So they're starting to get a few boys back, which is what they desperately need. Kurt Eklund came in. He's a little bit under strength still, like he's had a long-term groin injury, and he wasn't meant to be back, but pressures were. He came back, and I thought it was an outstanding effort for him. They're building right, and sometimes in this competition, when you get injuries, you just got to suck it down, and you just got to absorb the blows and wait for the fodder to get back. And I think and I hope over the next few weeks we're going to see that from the Blues as they just get a bit stronger. They're just lacking experience in those key positions, and Perifeta showed his class. I mean, he constantly at this level shows his class, and I just wish he could get fit and strong and be in an All Black jumper for 3 or 4 games in a row, because what he does at this level is pretty amazing.
He makes a good point there, Searley. Perifeta, if he can stay healthy, and he gives the All Blacks, if they decide to go that way, a bit of, I guess, he could play 10, play 15. He can help them out in a number of ways.
100%. And like Steve mentioned there, Super Rugby, NPC, he's always so dominant. So, and he hasn't had bad performances for the All Blacks either. It's just through a lack of opportunity and minutes. So I'm a big Stephen Perifeta fan, and I think people forget still his age. Like, he's another of these guys that shot on the scene so young that you assume he's at the back end of his career, but if he can get healthy, he's still got a bit more time as well. So, yeah, classy footballer. His impact was massive. And the Blues, for me, are a team, if they can finish 5th or 6th in this competition and play finals footy, they're the one team you do not want to meet, because once fully healthy, they are right up in the mixer. So, yeah, they're a team other sides will be trying to avoid come playoffs time.
Certainly, if we look at the Chiefs, though, and BMAC was a standout, they've got a couple of halfbacks that you could start either swapping around. It doesn't really matter. They look really, really good. And Shooter at the back, after coming back from overseas, he looked very, very strong, slotted in nicely. The forwards were very good. If you ever look at that Chiefs team, outside of DMAC, who stood out for you?
Yeah, there were a number of guys that really stood out. I thought Tupou Vaa'i was really good. I've been impressed with Jerome Brown coming back from the Brumbies. He's been really handy for them. I like the look of that, what was his name too? Simon Parker. He gives me a bit of a Liam Squire type of vibe. Like, he's just a hard-nosed bloke who just rips in and provides them some quality too. They've just got so much depth for me at the moment. They're just built to be able to withstand injuries. Like you mentioned, that 9-21 combo they have off the bench is really strong as well. So, yeah, if they can stay healthy or reasonably healthy, they are looking the best side in the comp at the moment. But, yeah, look, it's still pretty early days, and once the intensity ramps up, it'll be interesting. You know, they've lost a couple finals in a row now. What type of pressure does that bring as well? Because guys like Stevenson and that they're not going to be back. It's their last year, and they're going to want to win it. So it'll be an interesting watch come the home stretch. But they are looking bloody good.
Steve, the Blues, look, they're down towards the bottom of the table. But can you look? They've got a fairly easy finish to the regular season. So if they can pick up a win or two before they get to those final 4 games, where they've got in a competition that has thrown up a whole heap of upsets already. But if you look at it on paper, they've got probably the easiest of the run-ins of the New Zealand teams to finish the regular season.
Yeah, this season's certainly loaded towards the front. I know they have the Drua in Fiji, and it is round, I think it's round 10. 11 or something like that. I think that's the deciding match, right? I think the Blues go to Fiji, near on impossible to win there, and I think if they can come away with points there, I think that'll put them into the playoffs. They just need to. I mean, they've still got another 2. They've got Crusaders this week, and then I think they travel somewhere. Chiefs, Crusaders. It's a tough round for them up until their first bye, and then things start. Well, I'd like to say they get a bit easier. It's against a few of the Aussie teams, but it doesn't really get that much easier at the moment. So, the Blues certainly are loaded towards the front end of the season. They get a bit of fodder back. The big difference I see in Super Rugby this year is your ball carriers, right? The Chiefs are just stacked with ball carriers. Their locks can carry. Their hookers carry. All their loose forwards carry. Their second 5 and their centre carry like loose forwards. So the Blues have had injuries and they're just a bit light in big ball carriers. Hoskins will be back soon and he's massive for them. I just think they need to weather this storm and really, really start to find some rhythm in the back half of the season. I think they can do it.
Final game of the round was an all-Aussie affair. The Reds taken on the Waratahs, and there are a number of pundits, including, I think, a few on this podcast, who thought the Tars might be a bit of an upset chance here, but the Reds were just – they never let the Tars into the game, to be fair. They were completely dominant and looked very, very good at times, and they're challenging the Brumbies to be, I guess, put their hands up to be the best Aussie team in the comp at the moment, Steve.
Yeah, I think the Reds, I think I said in the first podcast this season that the Reds were probably my pick of the Aussie teams, and they certainly playing like that. Listen, the Waz, The Wars, the Tars.
Go the Wars.
Yeah, up the
Are very similar to the Wars. When they're on, they're very on, but when they're off, they're very, very, very off. You know, the Waratahs didn't really allow themselves a chance against the Reds. The week before, they were brilliant in patches and then just woeful at times. And I think that's where the Wars are. You allow them to do what they want to do, and they're going to hurt you. I know they're carrying a few injuries as well. Searley, and he's a big loss for them while he's not playing. But you give the Waratahs good, quick ruck ball, and they're going to hurt you. But most teams can stop them from getting that, and then they find that wrestle. They find that that really tough physical game. They find it hard to play. So definitely Queensland for me. They're the classy outfit, and I reckon they'll be there semi-final time for sure.
Searley, you were on the same page as Steve there in terms of the Reds being in the top 6.
Yeah, I reckon the Waratahs are like Manly, flat track bullies, love playing the lesser sides, but once they come up against the quality opposition, like the Warriors on the weekend and the Reds, they get the dominant win. As a Warriors fan, that's the way I like to post it anyway. But I like watching the Reds, They remind me most, out of all the Aussie teams, of Kiwi sides. They've got a great loose forward trio. They play some exciting footy with some Rasley backs. That try Jeremiah Murray scored. It's cool to see him getting an opportunity, a Northland lad for NPC. He's a quality player as well. So, yeah, they're definitely a team to watch. I had the Tars ahead of them in my preseason predictions, and I think I certainly got that one wrong. The Reds are a really good side for sure.
Righty-ho. Another question for you boys. We're talking about the top 6. So who do you think will be the most surprising omission from the top 6 when we get to the business end of the season? We'll start with you first, Steve.
I think, Dot, it was me first because I'm going to say the Canes.
We'll stop recording there, and we'll let Steve have another go.
I just don't think they have the depth right now, the Canes. When they get it right, they're good. I don't know. Their loose forward is dynamic and powerful, and their forwards, when they get it right, are good. I just for me, they don't have the depth right now. Like if they took an injury to Godfrey, it'll just be a battle for them. I really think I know Moana is a team, to help our Pacific Island brothers out, but I don't think it's really achieving that point. I think there's only a couple from Tonga and a couple from Samoa that are local boys that are playing Moana. Everyone else is New Zealand based, and it's just exactly what losing a team from Australia has done is strengthen the Aussie teams. Moana has weakened us when it comes to depth, and when we get a few injuries, we just struggle because we're pulling kids out of club rugby that haven't even played NPC into Super, and that's just too big of a step. So I just think depth. It's all about depth, and when you go through a campaign, you need to hang on to players, and you need players that can come in and cover injuries, and I don't think the Hurricanes have that.
Shirley, turn this conversation around, please.
Unfortunately not. I think the teams to miss out of the 6, I think it's looking pretty similar to how it'll look come the end of the season at the moment. It's either the Tars or the Landers that drop out for me and the Blues move in. I don't have any room for the Canes there currently. Sorry, Paulie, mate. But now is your chance to stake a claim for the Hurricanes. It's good to have a Samoa back, but I still think you're down a couple important troops.
Look, I think we're starting to get healthy. Once we get our top team on the pitch all at the same time, I think the Canes will be okay. I think
Does that happen?
It will happen. I think the Highlanders are the ones that might just fall away towards the end of the season. They've got some very, very good young players there. That Tunnydale, he's not only quick, he puts himself in the right position more often than not. And that's why you see him picking up these intercept tries. It's not by chance. He's there at the right time, and he's often gone. But I do think it's the Highlanders that just miss out on top 6 this season. But we'll revisit this conversation when we do get to the end of round 16, and we'll just see how our predictions go. Time to look ahead to this weekend. First game up, Moana Pasifika up against the Chiefs. Moana, significant outsiders here. They're $5.25. The Chiefs $1.13. Moana are 15.5-point underdogs, and the total is set at 66.5. So, Steve, where do we go in this game?
Yeah, listen, I think any team on their day is going to get a win. I think if Moana can sort their start out, turn up and start from the kickoff and not wait 15 minutes to be down 20 odd points or 14 points, then they're a chance. But unfortunately, they're going to have to be right on top of their game, and I don't think they're quite there yet to get a win over the Chiefs. But on their day, they are definitely capable of beating the Chiefs.
Searley, do we, as we record this on a Tuesday morning, we don't know the makeup of either side, but do we see the Chiefs rest a few players this weekend?
That was going to be my big thing, is what type of team the Chiefs do roll out. But in saying that, say they rest the D-Mac, Josh Jacob comes into 10, you keep Stevenson at 15. That's still a pretty handy backline. I think the big thing for Moana is keeping their discipline and limiting the amount of errors they make in their own area, because if you give the Chiefs opportunity off the back of good ball, then they'll make you pay regardless of who's out there. I've been impressed with Pellegrini. I think he's had a great impact on the team in the 10 jersey, so keen to see how he goes again. Off the back of a bye, I'll be fired up for this one. It was meant to be in Tonga. Unfortunately, it's in Pukekohe, which is a bit of a shame, but I think they'll get a good crowd out there too. I am backing the Chiefs, but this is one of those games where Moana can pull a rabbit out of a hat and keep it really tight, and I think it's going to be high scoring either way. My fantasy team, I love loading up on Moana players and whoever's playing against Moana, because there's going to be points and there's going to be tries, and I think this will be similar.
If we're talking fantasy players, Steve, then that winger, Tomoe Falau, has just been super this season.
Yeah, freakish, and what an athlete, and wow. But the Chiefs team, right? They're a different team without Mackenzie at 10. The first round against the Blues at Eden Park, Mackenzie at fullback. For 60 minutes, the Blues were in second gear and winning comfortably, and then Mackenzie comes into 10 and changes the game. He didn't go to Fiji, and they lost. Well, he didn't play at 10 against Fiji, and they lost. So, the teams haven't been named yet. If we get to tomorrow and we don't see D-Mac at 10, I just think there is a real good chance that the unthinkable can happen at counties where they'll be strong. It's if you're going to tip an upset for the weekend, I think if D-Mac's not at 10 or if he's having a rest completely, I think this is the one you load up on for a long shot.
Nice. All righty. Second game of the round, the Highlanders slight favourite against the Reds at home. Highlanders $1.70, the Reds $2.10. They're 2.5-point favourites, the Landers, and the total is set at 57.5. Where do we go here, Sue?
I don't mind the Reds for a bit of value here, unfortunately. I love watching the Landers play, and the Reds away from home haven't been amazing. They got towed up by the Crusaders a couple of weeks ago, but I think that really woke them up a bit as well. Under the roof, they like to play an expensive brand of rugby. Guys like Harry Wilson, Fraser McWright will be up for this as well. I think there's some value in the Reds there, 1-12 in a close game. So that's where I'm leaning at the moment. Taking them on an alternative line to me makes 100% sense as well in your multis, because you can still get a bit of value out of them, and you get that insurance of the Landers winning in a close one too. But yeah, this is going to be a good game. I'm going to enjoy this one.
When you say alternate line, are we talking plus 7.5? Are we talking plus 12.5?
No, I've got them plus 6.5. I think it's going to be close either way, and wouldn't be surprised if they win as well. So you get a little bit of insurance there.
Steve, the Landers 2.5-point favourites. Does that attract you?
Listen, I think the Reds win this game 9 times out of 10, except for Jamie Joseph and what he'll bring, and except that the Highlanders let one slide last week. So I just know Jamie Joseph will have them, tearing their hair out. They'll be angry. They'll be training hard. That's like the Reds win. The Reds are the best team. But, like I said at the start of the program, how often this year Does it come down to the team who want it more? And I just think Jamie Joseph will have the Highlanders absolutely fizzing for this. And I think maybe the Highlanders would just come out on top just. But the Reds are a classier team. The Reds are a classier team. If they get it right, they'll win. And I reckon they'll probably win easy 9 times out of 10. Just the Jamie Joseph factor.
Righty-ho, here's the big game of the round. And we've already mentioned the odds earlier on in the podcast because Steve couldn't quite believe what the bookies were offering on the Crusaders. The Blues, $1.82. The Crusaders, $1.90. They're a half point. This is crazy. Half point underdog, the Blues. And the total was set at 55.5. If you look at this game and what's gone on previously in the rounds that we've already seen, Searley, is this a gift from the bookies around the Crusaders?
I don't know if it's a gift. I think it's another alternative line game for sure. It's a gift in that factor. But did the Crusaders open up at like 2s? I feel like they've come in a touch there to $1.90 because I think I remember seeing them around the $2 mark as well, which was really appealing. But this comes down to team naming for me. Blues at home, they're always going to get up. We saw enough from them last week to suggest that was their best performance so far. And the Pasifika factor is a big one for me. Crusaders will be confident. They will be smelling blood in the water in some sense, but at the same time won't be underestimating their old foes. Heart says Blues. Head says this is a game as well to go either team within 7.5 points. Take the result out of it and just enjoy what should be a close game.
Is it starting to get towards panic stations for the Blues here, Steve? I mean, they're only 3 points outside the top 6 as we speak, even though they've only picked up 1 win so far this season. But have we come to a crossroads here? Is this one that they have to pick up to turn their season around?
I don't think we're at the crossroads just yet, but what they do need, if they do lose, they need to take at least a point away because that's going to be the difference at the end of the season. I think there's a stat, something around the last 19 games, Crusaders Blues at Eden Park, Crusaders have won 17 or something. Like it's a crazy stat. And I was gobsmacked when I seen that the Blues were favourites from you guys to win the match. But, I definitely think Crusaders, should deserve to be at shorter money in this match because I think they're the better team and last weekend showed that. They got a lot of players back. The Blues are still waiting for a couple. For me, that it just comes down to fodder on the park. And if you look at the two teams, I know they haven't been named yet, but I know the Crusaders are not going to sub in any B changes. It's going to be the full strength of what they got, and it'll be a battle. I cling on to the hope that the Force scored a lot of points through the middle once they got into the choice scoring situations. Pre-season, the Blues did the same thing, sort of ran through the middle once they got into the 22. I just think it's pretty hard to believe that a Crusaders team, what they're famous for is goal line defence, won't just front up unbelievably on the weekend. But that's my glimmer of hope that the Blues can get into the 22 and just rumble them.
Righty-ho. Final game on Saturday night sees the Waratahs hosting the Brumbies, and the Waratahs are $2.35 outsiders at home. Brumbies $1.55. They're 4.5 point underdogs, the Tars, and the game total set at 56.5. Searley and the Tars bounce back from that performance against the Reds last weekend, or the Brumbies just heap a wee bit more pain on the Tars and just show them, as you said, that they're just flat track bullies.
Yeah, you'd expect the Tars will be very disappointed off the back of last week, and they'll be up for this one and have a bit of a point to prove. But I think the Brumbies will just pick them apart and play that Brumbies style of football where they limit the amount of errors. They're just clinical, and they've got some strike and X factor out there too. This will be another close game and a good game, but recent form for me would suggest that the Brumbies win it in a tight one. I am keen to see if the Tars get a few bodies back though, because that'll make it a little more interesting. But yeah, I'll back the Brumbies here. That travel factor for them isn't huge at all, so the whole kind of home away thing isn't as big. And yeah, I reckon the Brums win in a tight one.
Steve, can the Tars bounce back this weekend?
Listen, these two matches traditionally always very close. I think pre-season they was a 36-all draw in pre-season between the two teams. I think the Brumbies right now are playing better footy than the Waratahs, who to me can be good, but can also just be woeful at times. So I just think the Brumbies will be a bit too strong, but there won't be a lot in it. It's a local derby over there that's been fierce for so long. These two teams go at each other hard. It'll be physical, and I just think the Brumbies are probably good enough to come out on top, but there won't be much in it. I wouldn't think it'll be 13 and over. I think it's probably a 12 and under type point score try score thing.
Oh, yeah, I like what you're saying. I don't mind those try bets where you can take either team to win by a 12 and under or 7 and under 7.5. Final game of the round, good one. And is this where the Force cash in after resting a few players last weekend? They're back home up against the Fijian Drua. The Force $1.60 favourites. The Drua $2.25. The Force are 2.5 point faves, and the total is set at 61.5. Searley, can the Drua win away from Fiji?
I think if they were targeting a game, it would be this one. But I think the Force have targeted this game as well. So it's going to make it interesting. I was surprised with the 7:05 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday Arvo time slot there. I love Sunday Arvo footy. I'd like to see this in the future be two New Zealand sides playing at 2:30 to really capitalise before the NRL kicks off for that afternoon. But yeah, this is almost a crossroads game for the Drua for me. If they want to make finals football, they need to win at least a couple games on the road. They've been there or thereabouts a few times, but just fallen short. And they would have targeted this one. So it'll be interesting. It's a bit of travel for them, but yeah, if you're going to pick up a win away from home, looking at the rest of their draw, it's probably against the Force, but the Force have been much improved this year when they've had their best team on the paddock. So it's a bit of a fence sit for me. I'm going alternative line on the draw again. Yeah, you can almost run that line for every game, can't you? Because they're just that close. Right.
Steve, do you give the Drua any chance here?
Yeah, they have a chance. They have a good chance if they turn up, but I just every week we're like the Western Force. I think we keep resorting to years gone by where the Western Force of the Western Force, but they're not that team this year. They're a quality team. They know what they're doing. They've got big, strong forwards that carry and carry hard, and you're going to need that against the Drua. The Force have shown me too much this year to be too clinical, and I think they'll get the win here. I love the Drua. I love the way they play their footy, but they're not great on the road, and I just think the Force will lock this one down pretty hard.
Righty-ho, let's get to the punting part of the podcast, and we'll have a look back at last week. And I wasn't here, and I don't think Searley was here either, so we didn't have any bets from Searley or myself. We did have bets from Jeff Wilson. He had a couple. He had a multi. Landers, Brumbies, Chiefs, Reds, all head-to-head in a multi. And I think the final leg was the Force plus 19.5. Unfortunately, the Force, even though the Crusaders did leak a few points, they lost by 22. So he was no good there. And then he had a same-game multi. Sevu Reece and Will Jordan both to score a try. So he came out on tops in that multi there. Pity, he's swinging for the fences even at this early stage of the season. He had the Canes, Drua, and Chiefs all to win. Unfortunately, that one did not come through for him. And then he just took the Tars to win by 1-12, and that didn't work out either. So not the best of weekends for Searley. For Pity. Jeff wasn't too bad. So let's have a look towards this weekend. We'll start with you, Searley. Where do you want to go with your alternate point starts?
Yeah, well, I'll stick to the perfect round theme because it's been going good for me. But I'm calling this one a bit of a Johnny Cash walk the line type of bet. I've got 4 lines and only the one head-to-head. So I got the Chiefs minus 5.5, the Reds plus 6.5, Crusaders plus 6.5, Drua plus 10.5, and the Brumbies head-to-head. I'm going to chuck $80 on that. That's paying $5.57. And then my other $20, I'm going to go Reds 1 to 12, paying $3, and either team by under 7.5 in the Blues Crusaders game. Multi that up. That gets you $7.05.
Very good. I like the way you're going. I forgot to mention Carl, who hosted the show last week, also had one multi. Unfortunately, had the Highlanders in that multi, so that was unsuccessful. Steve, where are you going to lay your $100 this weekend?
Right, I've decided to go head-to-head. I've got the Chiefs. I've got the Brumbies. I've got the Force. I've got the Reds. And I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Oh, here we go.
I don't want to say this. In fact, I can't say this. I'm going to go Blues.
Hey!
I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I think everyone knows. Yeah, I just can't do it. Blues.
Be honest, if this wasn't being recorded, would your answer have been different at the fear of social media finding out?
I can't. I just can't say it. It won't. I can write it down on paper, but it just won't come out of my mouth.
Good call. Good call.
I just want to clarify this. Do I take what you've said or do I take what you've written down?
You take what I said out of my mouth.
Righty-ho. Okay.
Blues
Brumbies,
13 plus.
Blues, Reds. All 100. Just send it.
Wow. Bang. Okay. I'm going to have a couple of bets. Just a small double. I'm going to take, look, I like the Highlanders. I like the way they've been going. And I agree with Steve. I think Jamie Joseph is a huge, huge difference to that team. And although the Reds have been good, I'm going to take the Highlanders to win at home this weekend at $1.70. And I'm also going to take the Crusaders to beat the Blues at $1.90. Just double those two up and put $50 on that. And then I'll have a couple of try scorers as well. I do like the look of that Tamoy Falau, and I think he'll dot down against the Chiefs. So I'm going to take him to score a try once as long as he gets named in the start, and I see no reason why he won't be. Tamoy Falau to score a try for Moana Pasifika against the Chiefs. And then I'm also going to take Will Jordan to score a try against the Blues. Little $50 double there on some try scorers. Righty-ho, boys. We've got to the end of another podcast. I know Steve didn't want to hear that. The Crusaders getting up over the top of the Blues. But, Steve, what have you got on this weekend?
Mate, I'm just settling in. I've got a bit of work to do, being at work at the fire station. So hopefully Saturday night is nice and calm and we can sit down and watch a bit of footy.
Oh, shit. Are you live from the fire station right now? That's sensational.
No, I'm not there now, but I will be there over most of the weekend. So,
right.
hopefully things can be nice and relaxed in Auckland, and we have a chance to watch a little bit of footy uninterrupted.
Searley, well, you'll be on fire this weekend, surely, with the way your punting's going at the moment.
Yeah, I'll be at the Warriors Friday night. And then the mighty Northcote have a preseason game Saturday arvo, so I'll be lacing up the boots. I've ticked the boxes on the return to play protocol post Vegas. I ran the water on the weekend. The lungs were even struggling with that, but I'll be playing again this week, and then I'll be watching that Blues Crusaders game with key interest and doing my best not to start a fire so that Steve can also watch the game.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that.
No worries.
Who's the preseason game against, Searley?
We are playing College Rifles at College Rifles. They're on that AstroTurf, which is gnarly stuff. So I'm getting the knees and elbows ready for a tough shift.
Where's College Rifles? Is that near Remmers?
Yeah. Yeah, they're a well-funded club, strong football side. So it'll be a good final preseason hit out. We start next week, so that'll be good.
Mate, make sure you bandage up those elbows and knees because she's a long season. She's a long season when you get skinned on the first game before the comp
starts. Does that happen on the old Astro, does it?
Yeah,
you get like
rubber.
Like a burn. It's like a friction burn. So your knees and your elbows are just burn. And then you obviously are training all year and in the game all year, you keep taking the top off it and you start from scratch every week.
Jeepers creepers. There you go.
Sounds fun.
Every week. Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah. The old Astro burns. All right. I think that's it for another week here on the Pick and Go. Thanks once again to Steve Devine for joining us. In fact, I think we're going to have Steve Devine again next week as well.
Come on the Blues. Come on the Blues.
Crusaders. Yeah. And we'll have Searley back again next week as well. And if Pitty's healthy again, we'll probably have him as well. So thanks again to everyone who tuned in. And don't forget, join us next week when we'll have another edition of the Pick and Go.